Today's episode is brought to you by Sunderman Tube in Baltic, South Dakota. Hello, and welcome to Brassy Business Podcast, where we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly with business owners and what they have done to make their businesses shine. I am your host, Halie Ruff, and let's talk business. So this week is going to be just a little bit different. I am interviewing my husband, Nolan Ruff, and we are both owners in a company we started at the end of 2022 called 4R Construction. So you're going to get my side and you're going to get his side. Probably a little bit more of his side because he's been in the industry longer and has a little bit more of the why we started and whatnot. So welcome, Nolan. And thank you for actually joining me for not a forced test interview.
You're welcome.
So when I first started this podcast, I made Nolan sit down and do like a test interview with me. And let's just say it did not go well. So I was kind of hesitant to do this again. But here we be, and this one will be great. Okay, Nolan, take a minute, introduce yourself. You can talk about business and where we're located at.
Well, I'm Nolan Ruff. I'm the owner and operator of 4R Construction. We're an oil field, like roustabout, dirt moving, anything. Ranch water lines. We do all sorts of stuff. Whatever we can get our hands on.
Mm-hmm. And how long have we been in business?
So technically since May of 2022.
Yes, we have. But we didn't kind of become operational until like September of 2022. Because it took us a little bit to get everything magically working.
Oh, yes.
So we're going to go way back in time. Way back in time.
I don't know if I can remember that far.
I like to lay these out and kind of tell the history as to how you came into business, and you have a lot of prior knowledge in this industry. So I feel like that plays a big part in the business that we have now. So how long have you been in the oil field business?
Oh, since I was 18, mainly. But before that, I would go to work with my dad, and he owned a business too, and in the same industry. So I was able to go to work with him when I was like 14.
Mm-hmm. Because you were one of the owner's children.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
So have you always mainly been located here in like the Gillette, Wyoming area, or have you gone elsewhere with the oil industry?
So in 2000, I've always been here, based out of here, but I mean, we traveled quite a bit. In 2009, the industry here in the Rozet, Gillette area it was in the dumps, and there wasn't a whole lot of work going on at that moment. So we went to North Dakota, and the Bakken was booming up there, and so I spent probably 3 years there. Done work all over. I mean, we went to Colorado and Pennsylvania, spent some time out there. Louisiana.
Ooh, Louisiana. Did you like working in Louisiana?
Well, it was July, and I was there for a week.
So
it was hot.
What did you tell me when you got off the plane? What was your first thought when you got off the plane down there in Louisiana?
It was awful. It was so humid. And it was like 103 degrees, and I don't know what the humidity level was, but that's the only place that you can drink a whole case of water and never have to go to the bathroom.
Because you're sweating it out.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. So what was it like being in Pennsylvania? Because that's not like what typically comes to mind when you think of oil production.
Well, Pennsylvania is where they, like, first areas there was oil ever.
Okay.
It's one of the oldest fields in the United States, but there's a lot of trees there. It's kind of a culture shock coming from Wyoming on the prairies.
Where there's no trees?
You can't... Well, the area I was at, you couldn't see anywhere. It was kind of miserable for me. I got claustrophobic, but a lot of wildlife.
Okay. What kind of wildlife is there?
Lots of deer.
Okay.
And bears.
And bears.
And bears.
Okay. Are the bears curious there?
Oh yeah, we were setting some gas compressors there for a company, and the concrete crew would cook. If they didn't take their garbage out, then the curious little critters would be in their trailer in the morning when they showed up to work.
Okay, I feel like there's a better story here. I feel like you need to elaborate on this a little bit.
So they may have showed up one morning and not paying attention and went to go get their tools out of their trailer, and out runs this little 100-pound black bear. And they were a little scared when it happened. It was funny. We all laughed.
Nothing like going to get your tools out of your enclosed trailer in the morning. There's a little black bear running at you.
Face to face with a black bear.
Oh, that's funny. So let's come a little bit closer to time. You and I have been together for about 10 years now. We've almost been married for 10 years, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Haley's math wasn't very good on that one. And ever since I've known you, you've been in the industry. You've spent some time in North Dakota. You've spent some time in Montana. You've spent some time on the opposite side of Wyoming. So within our relationship, you've traveled, I wouldn't say a lot, but I mean, a decent amount.
Yeah.
And there's actually been times to where you lived all week up in North Dakota and I stayed home with our kids and whatnot by ourselves. So, I mean, is that like kind of typical in the industry, or does it just depend on what's going on with oil?
No. I mean, it's hard to say. There's a lot of companies that do that, but I just kind of always went, where I was needed, and if they needed me to go to North Dakota, they needed me to go to Big Piney or wherever it was. We just went and, just made it work. But a lot of people that won't travel, they're strictly based out of here, so they like to stay here. They don't like to travel, but I don't know. I like seeing other places, how other people do things. And,
right.
I mean, every oil field's different. It's all the same gist, but
right.
But they all have different ways of doing things.
So what was the one thing when you did go to Big Piney that really blew your mind about how they did things there? Like
they're more of a gas field than anything, but I mean it's kind of nothing really blew my mind there. But
Big Piney is like, if you don't know, it's like south of Yellowstone National Park. Right. And there's lots of wildlife there. So on their time off, or, if they had to work on a Saturday, he typically wouldn't come home on the weekends. And there's lots of stuff to do. There's lots of like trails to go on. There's lots of fishing and whatnot to go on. But do you have a nice story from when you were fishing up there with a friend?
Oh, yeah. So we got rained out one day, and we went fishing up towards Pinedale, went up to Green River Lakes there, and we're fishing and spent the day, and we were in this willow thicket right along the river there, and come walking out, and there was wolf tracks that were, they're big wolves, but the wolves were following us while we were fishing, and there were a lot of wolves around there.
A little eerie.
Yes.
Oh, goodness.
And they weren't, when we seen the tracks weren't there and it was like 200 yards to the river through this thicket, it wasn't very far. But the tracks weren't there when we walked in, but they were there when we walked out. So they were close. They were very close to us.
They were watching you.
Yeah. They knew where we were at. We did not know where they were at.
So ever since I met you, you always had the idea in your head that you wanted to start your own business, right?
Yep.
And before me, you were very close to doing it, right?
Yes.
So what made you hold up that time?
Always thinking that you didn't have the experience, didn't have that the know-how to do it. But if I could go back, I would have done it years ago. But
so then finally, you and I got married, had children, bought a house, did all the things. And then What finally made you decide in 2022 that it was time?
It just felt like it was time.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'm going to say about that.
So with that, though, I had previously had a boutique business, and I actually felt that it was time to sell that in July is when I finally decided it was time.
Yep.
July of 2022. And then I actually did sell it at the end of the year. So that also helped with the whole taking the leap a little bit, because we had a little bit of money to play with, so to speak, that we could invest into this business.
Yeah, without having to pay capital gains on selling your business.
Yeah, exactly. So
reinvested it in this business.
Yep. All of that kind of just fell into place, and I said, hey, it's time. You wanted to do this for years. It's time. We've got the money. Let's do it. And we did.
Yeah.
We did. It was kind of a slow process getting started.
Yes. It kind of took a little bit. And with oil companies, you have to have a master service agreement.
Mm-hmm.
Some companies are right away. I mean, we're very fortunate to have some littler companies around here that we got into right away. So we pretty much hit the ground running, and that kept us busy. And then some of our bigger companies that we do the majority of our work for, they took a little bit to get going. But
so when you did start, you jumped in full time, right? It wasn't like,
no, it was,
I'm going to keep working for this person part-time, and then I'm going to do my own stuff on the side.
I tried that for 2 weeks. It didn't work.
So it was kind of an all or nothing situation.
Yeah.
Go big or go home.
Pretty much.
So we've been in business like a year and a half, roughly. In that time, has there been anything that you can think of that we've had to turn, pivot, adjust?
We had the tools. Since I've been for 13 years deciding that I was going to do this, I've been buying tools here and there, and if I find a deal on stuff, I would buy it. And so I had the tools that I needed to start rig up a truck, and I had a trailer, but the biggest thing is, getting the equipment that you need and staying ahead of that.
And is the equipment cheap?
No.
Yeah. So we started with probably a sixth of amount of the money that people would typically start with, because it's not a cheap business to get into. I mean, to get your feet off the ground, you need at least a 1-ton pickup. You need a flatbed trailer. You need, how many dollars worth of tools would you say? If we were to go and buy everything brand new to get a second truck running.
You're well over 100,000 in tools.
So a whole bunch of tools and insurance. Insurance is a whole different story when it comes to this business, because we have to carry 2 separate policies. We have to carry our general liability policy that covers us for all of our day-to-day stuff. It includes all of the vehicles, all of the trailers, that kind of things. And then we also have to carry an additional umbrella policy, and each company has their own stipulations and requirements as to what level that umbrella policy has to be at. And I think our biggest is a $5 million umbrella policy, isn't it? Yes, it is. Yeah. And that doesn't come cheap. So that was the one thing that really blew my mind when we started this, was that truthfully, we spend more money in insurance than some people make in a year. Mm-hmm. It's insane. And I know that we are not the only business that is like this. I've talked with other business owners, and they are like, yep, my insurance is insane just to operate on a monthly basis. So insurance is one thing that's definitely underlooked when it comes to starting a business, as to how much it's going to cost.
Insurance is very expensive.
Very, very expensive. So what's something in your eyes that we've done that just flat out has not worked?
Trying to get cheap employees that can do the job instead of quality employees.
Yes, that's definitely been a big learning curve, especially like even in the last 6 months, is just because they are able does not mean that they are the right fit for the
Yes.
job. I definitely have become like a ninja when it comes to sorting through job applications. Like the last job that we posted, we had like over 100 applicants, and I have to go through them with a fine-tooth comb. And I always tell people, like, you have to get through me before you can get to him. And I'm kind of particular about who I'm going to invite in here, just because we've had some in the past that just have not worked out very well.
Yeah.
So,
And it's hard finding employees right now. I mean, it really is. And every business is going through the same thing.
mhm.
They just, I mean, the guys are out there, but I hate to say it, but a lot of people just don't want to work anymore. They, you know,
Mhm. Yep.
it's hard. It's hard to get them. You got to pay them a lot.
Well, that's the other part, is if they do want to work and they are willing, is you have entry level employees that are applying for management jobs and they're just not qualified. If you've never
Yeah.
worked in the oil field industry, you can't go and you can't run a crew for me because you don't know what you're supposed to be doing.
Exactly.
And then at the entry level, they're wanting astronomical amount of money, and it's just like, hey, you got to work your way up. And I would love to have you come and work for us, and I will work you up the company, but you gotta show me that you have the knowledge first.
Yeah. And really, I mean, that's what they want, fresh out of high school, haven't, they've worked in the service industry, all through high school and whatnot. And then they apply here and they want to, run a truck, and well, it doesn't work that way. I can't send you out with a crew because you don't know what you're doing. You gotta,
And then that takes away from you doing your job,
yeah,
because you're at top of the totem pole and you have your own crew doing your own thing. And then when we get into a situation like that, like we did at one time, you're having to then oversee them, and then what you're supposed to be getting done is not getting done.
yeah,
Yes.
yep,
Precisely. So,
yeah. It's hard juggling employees, and I think I worked, I think, too much hands-on at times, to where I could be, off getting more work or talking with other people, but I'm always out in the field, and Halie doesn't like it because half the time I have a bunch of office stuff to do and I don't get it done.
so with that, like we said at the beginning, we both are owners in this business, and the way that I describe it to people is Nolan does all things employees and operations. He is the guy doing the work. He is the guy that gets the work. He keeps the money coming in, and I do everything else. So on a day-to-day basis, I do all of the invoicing, I do accounts payable, I do insurance stuff, anything with the state, payroll, anything that requires you to sit at a desk or run errands, I do.
Yeah, you're a pretty good parts runner.
Yep.
You pick up a lot of our parts, and so it's, when we get in at 5-6 o'clock at night, I mean the like the pipe and fittings and stuff like that, they're open late. But if you need stuff at Napa, it's hard to, when you come in at night, to get what you need, if you need oils or whatnot.
Mhm.
So that's where Halie comes in. I say, hey, I need this, and poof, it magically shows up.
The little fairy drops it off. So another thing that I would say, so right now you work up between like the Montana state line and Broadus, Montana. And it is out in the middle of nowhere.
Yes.
Like literally out in the middle of nowhere. And it's like an hour and a half drive to get up there.
Hour and 10 minutes.
Hour and 10 minutes. Excuse me, I stand corrected. So we've got an hour and 10 commute, and then most of that is going 70 miles an hour, because I think that's what the speed limit is. So one added expense that we have is we have a really big fuel bill every month because we've got numerous trucks going and they're all driving at least 2 hours a day, if not 3, to get to where they're going. But another problem that we've ran into is up there's no cell phone service. Recently, we fixed this problem, but up until about a month ago, it was a trap shoot whether I could get a hold of Nolan or not.
Yeah. I have my certain spots up on a hill. I could go check my messages, but now you can get a hold of me.
Now I can get a hold of you. We got like
a really nice booster.
Yep, we did get a booster. But that was a struggle that we kind of had to deal with for a long time because there's just no cell phone service up there. And half the time, if I would send a text message, it would get lost if he was in the wrong spot. And
other companies calling me, needing help, and then they can't get a hold of me. I finally got most of them trained. They call Halie, and then Halie dispatches, so...
Yeah, I do that sometimes too. I do.
They always can get a hold of Halie, but it's kind of, if I'm up there, a lot of things, even, north of our shop here, 10 miles, you go 10 miles north of here and you drop down in the river, the kind of the breaks there, you lose service in that area too. So pretty much everywhere that we go, we run out of, we're off the beaten path where, and there's no cell phone service. So.
Right. For sure. Yeah.
And we communicate with company radios up there.
Like handheld radios? Like Breaker 19?
Yeah. You say over.
No. Over and out.
No. It's everybody's pretty tight knit up there, so you don't they can hear who it is. You don't have to say, "Hey, this is so and so." You don't have to have CB handles. It's so you just communicate that way. But a lot of times, I mean, the oil company, they have radios in their trucks, and they work a lot better than and contractors have handhelds. They don't work as good. Sometimes you can hear them, sometimes you can't. So, but it's that's communication up there, around and everywhere is pretty difficult.
Well, and up there where you're working, there is so many roads and wells and locations, and I've only gone up there once, and that was last summer, and it's a maze.
Oh yeah.
Like, I can see where I need to get to go. I got lost. I will flat out admit it. I got lost. And I could see where I needed to go, but I had no idea how to get there. And Nolan tries to, like, draw me these little maps, and I'm just like, yeah, that didn't cut it.
Well, it made sense to me.
Well, you work up there almost every day. So that's one thing, like, office lady coming up, and what was I doing? Oh, I delivered lunch that day.
You brought us lunch.
I brought you lunch. So I was being nice that day. And let me tell you, that blew out like half of my day, bringing you guys lunch.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was insane. Because, I mean, I don't drive up there every day, so I didn't really know where I was going. And how much gravel is it to get back in there?
About 25 miles.
Okay, so I had just gotten a different vehicle and had not taken it on a lot of gravel yet, and did not quite know how this pickup was going to handle gravel, because it was lighter than what I was used to.
And when we say gravel road, it's more like a goat trail, but...
Yeah. Anyways, it took me a long time to get up there, and then I got lost when I did get up there, so that was fun too.
Hey, our blade operator went and saved you.
He did.
He's seen you driving around. So.
He came in on me. He did. But up there, it's really pretty. It's lots of hills and lots of trees, and yeah, it's a very, very pretty up there, at least. So,
yep. And that's a CO2 field. They're injecting CO2 into that.
But that's kind of the exception as to far as like the beauty in the oil field, isn't it?
Oh yeah, oil's never in like pristine places.
Like, you've never been to Hawaii to go drill some oil?
Nope.
Buddy. So I like to call it the crying in the closet moment, because between you and I, we both know I've cried in the closet before. Like, Like, what am I doing? How am I going to keep the doors open? Was this a good decision to do this at all? Did I just like mess up my life for the rest of my life moment? I know that I can think of one that's happened. I want to know what yours is, and then I'll tell mine.
Yeah, pretty much every decision that we make is a lot. You bid a job and you don't bid it right, you lose a bunch of money. And well, let's just face it, nobody likes to work for free. Thankfully, that hasn't happened, but there's always that potential, and that's always something in the back of your mind that did I miss something? Did I, what did I do it right? But thankfully that hasn't happened to us. But cash flow is the biggest thing. Some companies are 60 to 90 days getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got to float that money. You've got to float your payroll. Our fuel bill, you've got to float that. Equipment costs, breakdowns, anything. I mean, you 2-3 months you have to float that cost before you get paid. And sometimes if you bite off a little more than you can chew, sometimes the old cash flow gets a little tight. But
so my moment happened not too long ago, actually, and there was a merger between companies, and they reset our terms. So we had finally fought. We had got our terms to be net 30, and that was awesome because I had everything set up perfectly on my end, and everything was flowing in as it should be. And then poof, all of these invoices are going like overdue. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? And it took me a long time of digging to the end of it. And I had set all of these invoices to be paid a specific way. And every day I'm looking in the mailbox and I'm like, where's this check? Where is this check? Where is this check? And I finally...
Sometimes it gets a little close.
It did. And ironically, like, I don't know what God, he was just sitting up there watching us thinking that this was hilarious or something. But the last check that we got paid for net 30 got lost in the mail. It never has showed up to this day. So I'm like fighting with this company and I'm like, hey, where is this money? And they're like, oh, if it's been lost for like 30 days, then we'll be concerned about it. And I'm like, guys, you pushed us back from 30 to 60 days and now you want to push me back another 30 days? Like, you want 3.5 months from when this service was done before you pay me? And the way that works is if Nolan does the work on Monday, typically I will get the ticket either like 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later because he's not great about getting me tickets. But the other side of that is sometimes they do the work before the service order has completely got flushed through the system. So they don't have the coding on it that I need to input it to get paid. So that was one moment when I was like, oh my gosh, I am paying people, but I am paying them on the last day that I have to before it is not late. And I was doing every single thing that I could think of. I wasn't that worried. I was, but you don't see the money like I do.
Yeah, it was fun.
Fun?
We'll go there. Fun.
Fun is the word that you're going to go with.
Yeah.
I don't think that was fun.
Being a new business and trying to keep ahead of the cash flow it's hard. I mean, if you've been in business for a long time, you can build up that
bank account,
your reserves and whatnot. But being, really operational and at that time it was, less than a year. And with the new costs of buying and the equipment and getting into it, I mean, there's a lot of money there that you owe the banks.
So we like to joke. We do have a business loan, and we laugh that we started a company when diesel was $5 a gallon and interest rates were over 8%. So, there might have been a better time to start it, but we didn't choose it.
Jump right in when everything's high.
But
thankfully, we got a good banker.
Yes.
A very good banker.
We do.
She knows how to roll with our shenanigans and our ventures that we we go off on. And
you meet her every day on the road.
Yep, I wave at her every day.
Oh, buddy. So I want to turn and talk about social media. Hey guys, we're going to jump into an ad real quick. There's been so many times where we have been working on a project around the ranch and we just don't have the right supplies to get the project finished. Well, more than once, Sunderman Manufacturing has came in clutch to help us get our project finished. But now, not only do they sell agricultural products, they are now also a tube mill. Sunderman Tube, see what they did there? Sunderman Tube is your go-to steel tube mill in the Northern Plains, where you get 100% American-made steel tube. They have 11 different profiles, amazing customer service, and they can cut your perfect length for the project that you're working on. Give them a call at 605-529-5470 and buy directly from the tube mill. Tell them that Halie with Brassy Business Podcast sent you when you call them at 605-529-5470. So, ironically, I do social media for other companies also, and I created us a Facebook page, but do we utilize social media at all for your business?
No.
Why not?
The guys that we work for, they're not on, they're on Facebook, but they're scrolling through Marketplace. So really, it doesn't do my business any good.
And there's more to it, though. You do things during the day that you've signed, like confidentiality agreements and non-disclosures to. There's a lot of what you do in a day that we can't share.
Yeah. There are a lot of companies, they all get particular about their stuff. They don't like to show their operation to somebody else, or, and we don't like to showcase that because it could get us in trouble. And so we don't. Pretty much you can show like our backhoe.
So what we can show on like the social media stuff is not very much. So truly, I don't push our social media at all because one, that's not how we reach our customer. And two, it's not effective to get us more business. And that's just not one of our goals as a business is to grow our social media following. So how do you connect with your customers and how do you promote your business? Because you do that more than I do.
Word of mouth. That's the main thing, It's really about who you know and who you talk to. And we've got into some companies that I never even knew just because somebody else knew them and said, hey, bring these guys in and they can help you out. And so we get contacted that way and get brought in like that. But, a lot of the companies I work for, I worked through previous companies that I've worked for and, before I started my business. And that was pretty much the main kicker on. They heard that I had branched off and started my own, and they contacted me and said, hey, do you want to come work for us? Sure. So
you've been pretty much creating and establishing relationships on a business level for the last 10 years.
Oh, longer than that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because not everybody that where you've met them originally has stayed there. We have had people that have moved from this company to that company and then they get promoted and whatnot. Yep. So you've always kind of been making them relationships and kind of just letting your work show for itself.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So I want to talk about safety for a minute.
What do you want to talk about?
So in this industry, safety is a really, really high concern. Because there's a lot of working parts and a lot of like pressure, not like pressure on my back, like pressure in a pipe. And when something goes wrong, typically it goes really wrong. Yeah. Like not just like, hey, I broke my fingernail. Like, no, I blew my finger off.
Yeah, pretty much.
So we have to have like specific trainings before we're even allowed to go onto locations.
Yep.
And you have to fill out a JSA, which is a job site analysis, every single day before you can go to work on wherever you're working at, correct?
Yep. On every job.
On every job. So if you do 3 jobs in one day, you're filling out 3 JSAs.
Yep.
And then that has to be turned into...
And if the circumstances change, that JSA has to be updated. So there's a lot of paperwork you do before you can even... Like one company in particular, I mean, they have a lot of safety standards, and that company takes probably an hour and a half in the morning
before you even leave the office,
before we can even start our work. And then, by the time you fill out your JSA and get all their paperwork done and all that, just to do a 10-minute job. I mean, but it's good as a contractor because they care about they don't want anybody hurt. And I don't want anybody hurt. And so it's just, what you have to do. And the safety culture has changed so much in the last, 15 years that, because I remember when I started out, I was kind of on the end of the
Wild West.
Yeah, no, you didn't have to wear FR. Hard hats were optional. They were supposed to be, but I don't know if that's a good thing to say. But really, that was I remember working in a T-shirt. You didn't have to, but now it's full FR clothing and hard hats and
safety glasses, steel toe boots, ear protection, quite a bit.
Yeah, and like there's one place where we work that they have a lot of gas compressors in one building, and when you got to go into that building, you have to be in communication with the guy there. So they have, basically headsets, earmuffs, and you can't hear anything. It blocks out all the sound like earplugs, but you can still talk to each other and have communication that way. And those were very expensive. We didn't have to buy them, but
luckily
the company did. But they were pretty spendy, like $15,000 for a set of them. So
that's crazy. Another thing that you guys have to do is sometimes you have to wear H2S monitors.
Oh, yes.
Can you explain what H2S is for those who don't know what it is?
Hydrogen sulfide gas. It smells like rotten eggs.
It smells really bad.
But if it's in high concentrations, it kills your, I don't know, lack of better term, your smell.
Nose receptors?
Whatever, your little smellers. So if it's in high concentrations, you can't smell it. And it's very, very deadly. And, so we have monitors, and those are not cheap. And they have to be, we have to test them every day. And there's a lot of stuff that in this industry that's you can't cheap out on.
No.
I mean, you can go down to the farm store around here and they sell them. They're relatively cheap. They're like $80 a piece, but they're like a one-time use they throw away. But the good ones that we have, we spent quite a bit of money on them, and so we can test every aspect of this industry. There's potential of getting hurt. I mean, driving's a big one.
Yeah.
Down south of town, if you go down there, I mean, you got the coal mines and the oil fields, and there's a lot of traffic, a lot of congestion on one road. So, I mean, it's always in the back of your mind, having to, when you have guys heading out, like, guys, be safe, like, drive aware. And anymore, it's so bad that if the roads get icy or whatnot, we just don't go out. I mean, well, and a lot of the companies will say, "Oh, the roads are terrible. We'll just do it tomorrow." And so then,
well, and with that, I mean, we've got 2 people in a truck, so we've got 2 lives. We have a pickup. Typically, that pickup is hooked to a trailer with some sort of piece of machinery on it,
Yep.
and I mean, that just it adds up, and it gets to the point where is it worth it to go out on these roads, or do we wait an hour and see if they clear up and we just go up an hour late, or we find something to do around here?
Yeah, I mean, that always weighs in the back of your mind. Is it worth driving on those roads? I mean, in reality, you've got $300,000 worth of machinery and 2 lives going out to do a
$2,000 job,
couple $1,000 job. I mean, is it really needed? And so a lot of times we'll just shut the guys down,
and I think that
unless it's really needed.
The company men, they get that.
Yeah, they're the ones that call me. And I like to say we go out rain or shine like the post office, but it doesn't work that way. The companies will call you and just say, the roads are too crappy. It's snowing hard. And I mean, like a lot of times we'll keep the roads open for the pumpers and whatnot. So them guys will go out, but we have equipment usually staged. So they're just driving a pickup and, they take it easy. And it's not like anybody's going to get in there before we get there anyways. So, because they're usually the companies just follow us and we go out to the equipment where we have it staged and then plow the roads out for them. But yeah, for doing the outside work and a lot of that stuff, unless it's a dire need emergency, then that's a little different, but just take our time
and them happen too. I mean, there's been times where it's been 4:00 on a Saturday afternoon and you get a phone call that something happened and it needs to get taken care of right now, and you load up and leave.
Yep. I mean, we're pretty much on call all the time. I mean, a lot of times I handle those myself, those type of situations, because I like to give the guys some time off. But there's times where we work a full day and then have had to get a phone call on our way home and have to go somewhere else, and we spend all night on an emergency somewhere, and that's always fun. But yeah, I usually handle those calls myself, because guys get kind of angry when you work them 16 hours a day. They don't like that very much.
Yeah,
but it happens. It doesn't happen very often, but sometimes it does happen. But then a lot of the companies we work for, they say that oil's been in the ground for millions of years, so they just shut the field in, and we'll get to it on, if it happens on Friday, we'll get to it on Monday. It's not a big deal.
That one always makes me laugh whenever, there's something and somebody's like, we got to get this done right now. And then you've got somebody who's over him that goes, you know what? That stuff's been in the ground for 2 million days. One day longer is not going to hurt it.
Yeah. Hey, but a lot of the companies, I mean, they want it. They want, if production, if you got a leak or something, they want it fixed now so they can get that well back on and as quick as you can, because they're losing money on it. And then there's some companies that, it's not that big of a deal. We'll just shut everything off and worry about it. And, like it's on, like I said, on a Friday. Yeah, we'll come back on Monday and tackle this. It'll be fine.
So I didn't explain this very good at the beginning of the episode, but we use the word roustabout, and if you Google it, it's not going to give you a very good definition, because when I first moved to Gillette, Wyoming, I Googled it because I kept hearing people talk about that they were a roustabout, and I'm like, I have no idea what that means. So I Googled it, and the Google definition is not very good. So my definition of it is we are kind of like the maintenance / handyman of the oil field.
Pretty much.
So yeah. I don't know how you would describe it.
Yeah.
Because some of our listeners have no idea what this is.
I didn't explain that very well. So, we have, all the pipes run underground. So we have, backhoes to dig up the pipes and put new pipe in and if it's needed. And then we have, blade and motor grader, I guess.
It's a blade.
It's a blade.
To fix the roads.
Yeah, we maintain all the roads, the cattle guards, clear snow, and then, the guys go out and we fix pumps and whatever. So a lot of the ways that the oil companies are going to now, the guys that take care of it, they call them pumpers. They don't fix anything. They have their routes they have so much to check on that they don't have time to, if there's a problem, to fix that problem. So then they call us and we go out there and get everything going again and fix whatever needs fixed. And whether, it's an electric motor that needs to be changed out on a pumping unit or whatever it needs to be. But
so you have to have a broad knowledge of how the field works in and out.
Oh yeah.
So it's not just like this pipe has a leak and all I do is dig up this pipe and fix the leak.
No, you need to know where that pipe goes, what, and every company, every field has been put in by somebody different. So it's all different. And, newer stuff is a lot better because they're all the same. They're all engineered, but stuff, that was put in the 60s, 50s and 60s that we still work on today. Mm-hmm. I mean, those guys that put that in, they've been long gone. They've been retired for, 40 years now, and they're not around. They're just not. And so it's always some of them older fields are kind of fun. You dig it up, you never know what you're going to find.
Well, didn't you find a fiberglass line last summer?
Oh, yeah.
So typically that's not what the pipe is anymore.
No. And
what is the pipe now?
Well, they still use fiberglass, but that line was supposed to be steel, and it was way away from where it was supposed to be ran, and we didn't know. We dug it up and hit it and broke it and didn't know where it was going. Thankfully, on that field it was, and a lot of that stuff that was put in that years ago, there's no way to locate it.
Mm-hmm.
They, you call in your one calls, the gas line, the main ones, they, like the oil lines and transfer companies, stuff like that, they know where their lines are, but the oil companies themselves, there's no way to locate those. So they have a general idea. Okay, it runs here, but it might not run here. It might run over there and then back. It's always
landmines.
Yeah, it's always fun. But when we're digging up that stuff, it's everything's shut in and shut off. So it's not like if you hit it, it's not going to explode. It's just going to, it's all the ones that have pressure on them are locatable. They do a pretty good job of locating those, and we hydrovac them first if we got to cross them. But
yeah. So I've started doing something new, and I ask my followers, because I am trying to build a social media following. Anyways, I ask my followers questions that they have for this type of business. Okay? So I have 2 questions for you. The first one is, do you need any special license or permits to do your type of work?
Permits?
Yeah, license or permits is what she asked.
Well, we have permits every day.
Okay.
So
you can't do your day-to-day work without said permit.
No. So it's all goes back to site security, and we can't do work for somebody without them giving us the okay to do the work. We can't just go into somebody, it's like a plumber. A plumber can't come into your house just because he thinks that your pipes need fixed.
Right.
So, that's general deal. So they fill us out a permit to work. We sign off on it. They sign off on it. If you're doing any work on any whatever, if it needs to be isolated, if it's in service and we need to take it out of service to work on it, you have your lockout procedure that you have to follow, and you close valves and then actually put padlocks on them, and that's all got to be documented. I mean, pretty much everything that we do is a permit of some sort.
But as far as licenses go, no, we don't have a lot of licenses. Mainly, all of that is more like on my administrative level, to where we have to have our basic business license and sales tax, and them are mainly the type of license. Yeah. I guess the other big thing that we have to have is we do have to have an MSA, Master Service Agreement, with said company before we're ever even allowed to go into their field.
Yeah.
So that would be I wouldn't call it a license, but it's kind of like a license. That has to be in order before we can do that. But license, not so much. It's more of the permits and then the safety stuff.
Yeah, and safety stuff. I mean, we're all H2S trained and have to sit through that and
fire safety.
Yeah, sit through countless hours of training. And
you have to have safe land. That's a lifetime thing.
Yeah.
You have to have that before you can pretty much work anywhere in the oil field.
And a lot of places, I mean, a lot of our not places, but a lot of our trainings, they expire yearly or every 2 years, depending on what it is, and they're always renewed. So you're always renewing something. It's always. And everybody, if we hire a guy in July, he's going to have his trainings expire at a different time than mine. So it's always, we're always trying to get ahead of that. And if you forget about it, then our safety program that we use, they will, hey, this guy can't come to work today. And then it's,
Halie.
Not always that. I mean, that doesn't happen a lot, but I mean, sometimes they slip through the cracks and you forget about it, But we try to keep up on all that. Well, we have to. It's not we try to. We have to. So
yeah, we do. So the other question I have is, what are the benefits of owning your own company? But what are the disadvantages? I'm going to let you answer all of this.
So the advantage is I can kind of pick and choose what I want to do. And, if I want time off, I can have other guys pick up the slack if I leave. And I can pretty well set my own hours. Used to be when I would work for somebody, they would throw a fit if I wanted to go see the kids' Christmas concert or something like that, it was always kind of, we got to get this done before you can go type deal. Now I just, hey, you guys stay and I'll leave, but not that it happens all the time.
No, not very often.
But disadvantage is it's all on me. It's all on my shoulders. I got it. It's not just me I'm looking out for anymore. It's, trying to keep other families. It's not just your own family that you're trying to feed. It's
all of your employees' families too.
All my employees. So that all falls on me. And, if I, don't go out and basically hustle to work, then we don't have nothing to do, and them guys don't get any hours, and then they're mad. And so you always got to keep on top of it, keep busy, and keep them working.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I like to ask this question in interviews because it's fun. And I feel like I really get an idea of knowledge that people have like when I'm personally interviewing employees that we're looking at. So what is the biggest struggle that you see your industry as a whole is facing right now?
Oh, in our industry, everybody's got it in their, well, not everybody, but there's certain select group of people that see the oil industry as just this monster, and that they're, dirty and just pumping out emissions, and so it puts a struggle on us on what per se that we can do. The carbon emissions or CO2 emissions are the big thing, and that's just not the case. I mean, there are some bad oil companies out there. Fortunately, we don't do any work for companies like that, but a lot of the companies that we do, I mean, their environmental is so extreme that I mean, I know, like, back in the old days, you had a leak, you just fixed the pipe and covered it back up and went about your business, and that happened, in the 50s, 60s, the 70s, and 80s. But anymore, I mean, that all that contaminated soil is hauled off to appropriate,
Disposal
facilities where whether they burn it and get all that hydrocarbons out of the dirt or whatever it may be, but it's all disposed of, and then you haul new stuff in and reseed it, and it's a lot. The environmental aspect of things is a big thing. I mean, that's one of the major deals now, and so I mean that's really.
So what I see is there's this big push right now that oil is bad.
Yeah.
That oil is so bad and everything needs to be solar, wind, electric. But I feel like there's this big disconnect between what people actually know about oil and how many products it's in.
Yeah.
So your wind turbines they have to have oil to spin. They have to have it in there to make the propeller go around. There is just so many byproducts that are oil dependent that people are unaware of. Your cell phone, oil.
Yeah, all your plastics.
Your tires, oil. So, you can buy your Tesla, you can buy your electric car, but it is still an oil product because there is oil that went into the production of that. Whether it is the machine lines putting it together, keeping the gears lubricated, whether it's the tires on. There is just so many products that are a byproduct of oil that people are oblivious to, that there needs to be knowledge about. And I don't know if I'm the person to push out that knowledge. There are so many individuals that just have these earmuffs on that oil is bad while they don't realize how many products they are dependent on that are produced from oil. Mm-hmm. And that's what I see is one of the bigger thing. And I feel like that might be government based, and that's fear based and just trying to push their own agenda.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's a lot of it, but it's just, your electric cars, they have their place. If I went and drove to my office job in town and was able to plug my car in, I wouldn't have no problem driving an electric vehicle, but that's not. But driving not how we go.
An hour and a half in cold, it's happened before where we've been driving in negative 20-degree weather. I would not trust an electric car in that situation.
And you don't. There's no. We're so far out in the sticks in the middle of nowhere. There, electric cars just wouldn't work for us. And I mean, yeah, there's companies making, regenerative braking and all that stuff, and but there's no hills
Mm-hmm.
to recharge everything, so you're always using that constant. So there's a big push for electric right now, and that just doesn't work out in our industry.
Area, region.
We'll see. There's a big push for it, and everybody's going to be all electric by a certain year. I don't see that happening, but maybe.
I don't feel like it's feasible.
No.
But.
And like all of our stuff, everything, all the equipment runs on diesel. It's all. And yeah, we get taxed on for our diesel usage, and
Mm-hmm.
and have to pay our fair share for carbon emissions and all that stuff. But
that's a rabbit hole that I can go down that I probably should shut my mouth on now.
I was wondering how long it was gonna take. I was trying to
let's just
circumnavigate that question a little bit.
But sometimes you got to pipe Halie down on that kind of stuff. Anywho, so now that you've been in business for about 1.5 years, if you could go back and give yourself some advice for when you were first starting, whether that be 10 years ago or whether that be in 2022, what would you tell yourself?
If I could go back, I would have done it sooner.
Okay.
Would have took the jump sooner. Yeah, that's.
So do it sooner and maybe have faith in yourself.
Yeah.
Because you got this.
That was the biggest thing. Thinking, well, I don't know if I can do that. I don't, I can't do that. That's what I always told myself. No, you can do it. Go ahead and do it.
Just do it.
If you fail, I mean, it's not that big a deal. Just start over.
Funny. Okay. Well, is there anything else that you would like to tell our followers, listeners, about the oil industry, about you? So why don't you tell them phone number, location, what type of services we offer, because we don't just work in the oil field.
Oh, yeah. So we do. I mean, we maintain roads and we can dig up water lines.
Tomorrow, actually, we're fixing a water line for a local rancher.
Yeah.
So.
We want to dig up and put in another 300 foot of water line or something like that for him. And, we do pretty much all sorts of things. From hauling. I've hauled tractors to town for guys, and can get them loads of pipe, and if they want to build a set of corrals, and I can get that type of stuff. But we're located in Rozet, Wyoming. We do northeast Wyoming, southeast Montana,
mm-hmm. And then
pretty much anywhere.
To get a hold of us, you can call Nolan at 307-680-0232, or you can call me if you need any office-related stuff at 605-254-4208.
Yep.
So, okay. Well, thank you for sitting down with a legit interview and not a test this time. This went way better than last time. For sure. Not gonna lie. So all of 4 constructions will be listed in the show notes, or obviously I know a little bit about this business, so you can just ask me if you need to. That was fun. I'm glad that we finally sat down and we finally did this. It was very enlightening. I like to listen to your stories, so I hope that everybody else enjoyed it as much as I did. If you've been eyeing my outfit today, you can't see a whole lot of it, but I got the jacket from Marshall's and my shirt came from the Lace Cactus. They are out of Texas. That is all that I have for today's episode. Thank you for joining me. If you would like to watch the video version of this, you can find it in the link below or search Brassy Business Podcast on YouTube. Make sure to follow the show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and look us up on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok under Brassy Business Podcast so we can stay in touch. Have a great day, and I'll see you next week. Brassy Business Podcast is a Black Cows production.